All right, cyber traders, welcome on back here this Monday, November 29th, shortly after 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And of course, this time of the day, as always, welcome on back here for our afternoon meeting. Great to see Chuck, Brian, Norman still sticking with us here in Cyber Group, alongside Michael and Gary. Great to see you both as well. And of course, all of our trial members and members alike inside Cyber Group. And if you're joining us on social media today, Facebook Live or YouTube, welcome on back. So we do have to go through things rather quick. We're continuing along with the Phase 2 stock course later on this afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. We're actually going to continue our discussion in regards to Level 3, the program otherwise known as the ECN book. So not only that, we're actually also going to be continuing our discussion from this morning's class in relation to shorting. So really, our whole class this afternoon is shorting by following the ECN book, by following Level 3 in particular. So, no, hey, actually, for the sake of this afternoon's class, I hope we have a nice drop off somewhere, whether it be across the major indices alike or just give me a stock that's dropping. I'll take it. So for right now, PTPI on the screen to begin. We'll just start with this one, then we'll go right from top to bottom otherwise. But hey, it's up just about 100% still. Ended up making this nasty shake off going into the early afternoon. It broke above 5. It started to try and make that second squeeze, but obviously, as you could see, failed to break higher. If it's not going to break higher, only one other way the stock's going to go at the time, right? Sounds, sounds not silly, but sounds easy to think about. Well, that's where I talk about here. If you don't have your stop set on a trade like PTPI that was up over 100% at that point, well, if it's not going to move up, again, that big move's going to be down. Are you prepared to handle this type of drop? That's the question. So, more often than not, that answer is no. It's just to say we always got to place stops right upon getting into a trade. Now, with that in mind, the stock is beginning to perk back up again. Ended up bottoming out right off of 375 there and then pushing back up above 4. I just feel like for the volume that this stock is traded today, 202 million and counting from Friday and then from Wednesday of last week before Thanksgiving, this stock's been through like the spin cycle, so to say. So I'll put it on our list. And I'm not reluctant at putting it on our list, but by the end of this meeting, if this thing fails to break higher from here, then we might actually take it off the list, because then at that point, then there's really only one other direction the stock's going to go in. And I don't think that we could short this. So we'll come back to this at the end easily enough. We'll put it on our list to begin. Otherwise, though, we'll go right from top to bottom and see what else we could add to it. The KYRS stock, surprisingly not a buyout. It looks so flat here across the late morning, early afternoon that without looking at the news, you would have assumed buyout. I think just for as expensive as they are, I think it was just news in relation to like phase 3 meeting their primary endpoints. Sounds like great pharma news, but the stock was way out of our price range to begin. So we're going to move forward from it. PTPI already on our list, and at this point, we'll just keep it going. We'll go right from top to bottom otherwise, see what else we can add on. It's like 30 degrees here in Long Island, New York, but that doesn't stop the sun from like coming right through the window right in front of me as I'm doing this meeting. So I got to move around and adjust. ISPC, as my platform actually locks up on me just briefly there, that one looked like it had some traction to it across the last, like 10 or so minutes. We'll jump back to that stock pretty briefly. The ISPC, pushing up pretty quickly from what appears to be support off of, oh my God, the sun, from like 22 right now as I stand up, popping over 26, getting close to 27 right now in the last bar, coming right back down. Geez, much like the PTPI, this stock's been through like the spin cycle too. So you know what? I'll add it. I'm a little more reluctant on adding this stock to our list than I was on PTPI, but that's more because of the lack of liquidity that's out there on level 3, how big of a spread this stock has. So you got to be really careful trading this thing. And what I mean by careful is not just where and when you get in, but position size. I would not be trading this on 1,000 shares myself. Probably wouldn't be doing 500 share positions, let alone, maybe do 200 or 250, then add up over time, perhaps. All right, this ATXI stock was pushing up pretty nicely. I jumped and skipped an ISPC and clicked this one actually beforehand. It's trying to make its way back up. I don't mind coming back to this at the end of the meeting. Has good liquidity on the book. I guess you could say the same on WDH here. This one already making a bit of an ugly shake back down here, so not as keen on that. Don't get PTPI confused with PPSI. And I honestly mean that. That's not a joke for anyone that has trader's dyslexia like myself. So this stock definitely looking pretty interesting as of 2 p.m. It didn't completely tank and go the other way, which is a good thing, but it hasn't really broken up higher. It's kind of just meddling around right here. You know what? I'm more keen to put this on than anything. So the PPSI stock, I'm going to separate that from PTPI, which is at the top of the list. All right, no, keep it going. QLGN, nice push from earlier today. I know that Rich was commenting on this going into the early afternoon as it was beginning to push back up towards resistance that we had at the time off of 2. It didn't really hold that great as a level. I mean, I reckon it did as support later on. It seems like it was a little choppy at first, but you could see here it was chopping around. And then on the next break above 2, here's where it held pretty well as support. Pretty good support hold off of 2. At least from that point, pushed up pretty nicely, but it came back down. It's like lacking the volume that it once had from earlier in the afternoon. So not as impressed at this point. We'll see if there's anything else looking better. As of right now, this INM stock looking pretty volatile in a good way. 27,000 share order on the ask, currently at 210. There's a 101,000 share iceberg clearly on the bid there at 205. So that's where support is. You have resistance on the ask as of right now. It's hard to not put this on our main watch list. Was INM. Interesting stock. Apparently, and I'll say apparently because I believe we did. I don't know if I was out at the time on my vacation. I think I was, but back from November 17th, from a couple weeks ago when I was away on vacation, looks like you guys ended up trading this stock from like 150-ish, 143, the low, went up to a high of 237 that day. Interesting. I didn't realize that up until right now. All right, for right now, the INM stock, I don't mind putting on our main list. Now, a stock that was a complete, utter disappointment, YCBD. So news came out on this YCBD stock in relation to a partnership with Amazon Web Services, I think a subsidiary company of Amazon at least, but man, seemingly great news. And with that, well, it was dropping off going into the open. So this is not the disappointment right here. Well, actually, it partially is. The fact that it dropped off at the open is expected, but it took so long for this to make its big pop. Right when we started class, this thing was beginning to run. So that was the real disappointing part where, hey, if today wasn't a class day, then we would have been more focused on this at the time as a team. Well, ended up making a nice push up over 2, ended up trying to break out higher, and then, well, came back down. So right now, definitely at this stage, not really as worth watching the YCBD. I don't know, maybe keep it on your side list for tomorrow just to check in with it early in the pre-market. I don't know. NRXP, I was pretty strong on this up until they shake back down. So much so I ended up taking a 4-cent loss just over the last 3 or 4 minutes. I was about to tell you folks, I was in this trade and I was from $8 right here. I was like hawking it right before we started the meeting about 10-15 minutes prior. And I was doing pretty good on the trade actually. It was pushing up pretty nicely up towards 835, 840-ish almost. And well, I thought that there was going to be another push up on this trade, at least up to 850, if not up a lot higher. Well, sometimes we're wrong. So ended up coming back down. I took a 4-cent loss. The 4-cent loss is the 4-cent loss. I'm happy to be out of this trade now at this point because now at this stage, it certainly seems like it's just only going to drop lower, the NRXP trade. Stern, kind of a familiar name, really, kind of a new IPO dating back to November, but ended up making a big drop last week. I guess it's trying to make a move back up now. Spotty chart there. LAC, I think Fausto was commenting on this earlier today. So for that reason, let alone just the fact with this stock at the highs right now, it's hard to not put this on our list. Is this all-time highs? The answer is on the daily chart there. Looks like it. Yeah, it looks like all-time highs here for this LAC stock. That makes this a really interesting trade. With there being no historical ceiling or overhead resistance from the chart to work off of, in theory, it gives the stock a very free ability to run up. So, got to see more volume getting filled off the ask first before we really expect that parabolic move. I would assume for that resistance to likely be off of 41. there's no iceberg order there showing at the time, but I reckon that we'll have some volume filled directly from the NYSE as the stock's, listed on the New York Stock Exchange. So probably going to see a lot of volume off the ask at 41 upon that level getting tested. Bitcoin, of course, we're going to talk about Bitcoin as we finish up this meeting. Actually, a stock that I'm still in on as a swing trade, taking a hit on it right now. The BTBT trade, making a nice climb up today, up over almost 10% move up today. Bitcoin had a nice little bounce over the last couple of days. I'll talk to you about that in a bit. I ended up buying the dip on Friday night, Saturday morning, one of those two. We'll see what else is out there in the meantime, though, folks. Actually, I skipped over Bitfarms as I was briefly talking about the BTBT trade. Here's TCAT, an NFT stock. Not really doing a whole lot right now. Here's BITF Bitfarms stock I kind of skipped over just before. It's tradable. It's making lower highs and pulling back down now. We've seen what's happened much, much more often than not on these Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining affiliated stocks heading into the afternoon. So definitely not as keen to put them on our watch list, at least yet. mRNA, I only clicked on this just to see where it's at. I was wondering why this was locking up my platform so much. And, well, I guess this explains it. I don't know what happened over the last 10 or so minutes on Moderna mRNA, but it took a huge hit. Let's see. Don't really see much news out there, at least on mRNA. From 1:46 Eastern time, White House says nothing has changed in our deadline for required vaccinations of federal workers. All right, if there's anything that I see, I'll let you folks know. Looks like NVAX is also halted too. That could be the reason why Novavax halted on a circuit breaker. Guy Doug Cherry on YouTube commenting to us to check out NVAX right there. I'll tell you what, I'm going to move away from this right now because when it reopens up, it's definitely going to make my stuff freeze. So, yeah, clearly a big drop on Novavax, and that's the reason why a lot of these vaccine stocks are moving with it. We'll check out OCGN here, perhaps. We'll check out Vaxert. They're not really making a good move for us to try and capitalize on and trade, just simply showing that a lot of these stocks do move in tandem. What was it, AHPI from last week and APT? These are more kind of spotty compared to the others. How about INO? Yeah, they're all kind of just dropping. Definitely Novavax, though, the biggest of them, and Moderna moving with it too, seemingly. All right, I still don't even have any headlines or news out there in regards to Novavax, but oh yeah, and then obviously Pfizer, right? PFE. If Pfizer's shortable, then that could be the only thing that would be tradable with those stocks. This one's a little more expensive too, but compared to the others, not nearly as much, right? So you know what? If anything, I don't mind putting the Pfizer trade kind of on the bottom of our list, just kind of moving with Novavax. We'll see how that follows heading into the afternoon. That's a good call there. All right, we'll hop over to the losers side, seeing if there's anything looking just as good, if not better. Chris, I appreciate your chat on Pfizer, and I got your message just now. I'll get back to you once I'm done with this meeting. Fence FENC, I have no idea what happened to this trade. Check out the news pretty quickly, just out of curiosity. Now is the time to do it, if anything. So, FENC trading lower after the company said it expects to receive a complete response letter from the FDA for its new drug application, blah, blah, blah. All right, well, clearly they didn't respond too well, the FDA, to their new drug application, but ended up making such a drop here today. It's still near the lows. The part about this stock that I'm not as particular about, just checking it out right now finally, but the liquidity on the order book, it's just not a whole lot out there that's showing to me. Big spread, thin tier size on level 2, smaller orders across the bid and the ask. It's shortable, it's down big. All of that I like. But right now, nothing really. It's not as much otherwise. It's making me really feel that great about this stock here. The market ended up making a nice bounce back up heading into the mid to late morning, the early afternoon. Been very flat since, but that's why we're seeing, UVXY ETF that kind of correlates inversely to the Nasdaq 100, the S&P 100, and otherwise the major indices just flat here. Say the same on VXX. Prague top loser here today, down over 14%. This is just a sideless stock. We can't short it. Just curious to see what it's doing. That's all. But I'll tell you, folks, otherwise, I mean, again, there's not a whole lot that's really looking that great. JMIA, shortable. This is a sideless stock. Just wanted to look at it pretty quick. Not looking that great in terms of any direction. Latest says in the chat board here inside Cyber Group, FSR testing the high of the day, worth watching at 22. Yeah, this looks pretty good. I don't know if I skipped over this or, yeah, I guess I did, but yeah, FSR, I like it. Good call. All right, there you go. That's why I always say, folks, if there's anything up, down, left, right, more than 5%, feel more than free to type it in the chat board. If it looks good, I may have easily just skipped over it like I did that Fisker Solar trade. Or Fisker, not Fisker Solar, but check out Benzinga Pro here pretty quick. I'll jump to, Bitcoin in the coming minutes. New high of the day alert on Lizzie, L-I-Z-I. I don't know what the chart looks like. It's up over 11%, this stock, that's for sure. Trading just over 600,000 shares. That's not a whole lot at this time of the day. It's enough for what we look for. I don't know. It's at the highs right now. It'll remain on the side list, this stock. If it ends up showing more strength, more buying, then I'd be more keen to call it out. But for right now, I'll pass. The AEHR stock trading a very similar volume across the day, up over 7.5%. I don't think the stock is near the all-time highs. No. All right, folks, I'll jump to Bitcoin rather quick, but then from that point, we'll pretty much finish up. I really like this list so far. So if there's unless if there's anything that's going to make a really, obvious pop or drop that we would look to put on our list, I think that we're pretty much all settled. I think that we're all good. All right, but in the meantime, I'll just quickly bring up the Bitcoin chart. I want to bring something up because, hey, from the last drop off that we had here at the time, I did not expect Bitcoin to drop down at this point. I did not expect Bitcoin to drop down towards 53, 54,000. I'm sure as did a lot of us, right? But it's to say this. I brought this up from Friday afternoon, I believe, or Friday or Wednesday afternoon. That is, I'm sorry, the last afternoon meeting that I did for you folks on social media, and on my 6-hour graph, I was saying, hey, if this stock or if Bitcoin could pull back down towards the 500 EMA on the 6-hour, the last time that we ended up seeing it make a big shake right over here before it went parabolic. Well, it broke the 500 EMA on my 6-hour graph here, led to a big drop. Well, here it kind of was chopping around it a bit. Well, it popped up from that point. Where I'm getting to is if we're led to believe that we're going to see this begin to push back up, get up to 69,000 and hopefully much higher over time, well, I would imagine for there to be less of a fight, less of a tussle off the 500 EMA if it ends up coming back down there again. So where I left off with you folks was Wednesday of last week. I think that was the 24th or 23rd even. Just to say, though, that, hey, it came right down to the 500 EMA. It actually came down to this perfect trend line off the lows. The combination of both ended up leading to a nice little push up over the last, 6 to 24 hours here. From early this morning, big pop up and continuing to push up for the meantime. So I ended up buying not a whole lot. I ended up buying like $500 worth, right around 54.6. Wish I had more funds to add more to it, but it is what it is. I did what I could. But now at this point, with this nice little push back up here, the hope is to see this, hopefully sooner than later. But if it's slower than what I expect, so be it. At this point, I think that we're beginning to see some support. We'll happen to have a bounce, I think, back up in the coming week or two. All right, folks, if there's anything else, though, in terms of stocks that you would want me to look at, anything that I missed, definitely let me know right now. That cars trade we'll check out pretty quickly. I saw that popping up on my Benzinga Pro screen. So, yeah, cars is a gap fill. I know Fausto was commenting on this earlier today too when we did the audio commentary. When I say gap fill, you got to look at the weekly chart, the daily chart also, but this is a little bit easier to see on the weekly. So it looks like this ended up dropping off from right around like 1750, I think it was, $18 back from 2018. It's making its way back up there right now. It's filling the gap. So alongside the Fisker trade that Leda called out, FSR, I'll put cars on our watch list here too. Yeah, Norman, I remember calling out cars on Friday as well. I think that's when we were first really looking at this trade, right? On the half day last week. From John, he's typing in the MTTR stock inside Cyber Group. Hey, it's near the highs. It's up over 20%. So it would be hard to not put this on our main watch list. It's right at all-time highs, mind you, as well. You could just see that from the daily or weekly chart here. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't put this on our list to begin. Maybe at the time it just wasn't looking that great. Maybe at the time when I did the meeting at first, it was kind of dropping off. So nice turnaround on this trade, John. Yeah, definitely good reason for me to put this on our list again. All right, I'll tell you what, folks. In total, we got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 stocks to work with. That's not too much. That's not an overload for me, but I think the shoe just fits. I think that we're looking pretty good in terms of the number of stocks on our watch list so far. I don't want to add too much more from this point. So I think that we're just about good to go, folks, for all of us on social media, Facebook Live, YouTube. I'm going to type my email address here in the chat board. If you have any questions, feel more than free to send over a quick email right to josh@ctutrading.com. All right. Also, last thing, and I really don't like talking about this as much because I don't like sounding like a salesman. But it's to say for all of our students and members inside Cyber, today is the last day for our Black Friday prices regarding our coaching, regarding the membership to our trading room, and much more. So if you're interested on jumping on any of that, you got to let us know by the end of the day today, and we'll be able to talk to you about the Black Friday deals. Otherwise, I'm going to call it. All right, folks. So I just wanted to make last mention of that. But otherwise, for everyone on social media, Facebook Live, YouTube, I appreciate you sticking with me each and every day, each and every afternoon. And I'll catch back with you folks tomorrow. For all of us inside Cyber Group, most of our students there at least, I look forward to talking to you coming up in the Phase 2 course in just about the next 10 or 15 minutes. Take care.